George, if we do win the league, are you going to come down for a parade?
You know what? I could try to work it. To be honest with you, that would be something I've not experienced that. So
You'd have to, surely.
I'd have to. I'd have to make the trip. We do a GoFundMe. We'll see how far the Cannon podcast can take.
We'll get your private jet. Don't worry. We'll get you. I'm sure there's someone with a private jet going. Yeah, we'll get him over. You know, just for the Cannon podcast. But look, to do that, you know, we're gonna have to rely upon our number 29, Kai Havertz, who said that he'd only score in March. Yet now he's been nominated for the April Player of the Month, which is rather surprising, Chelsea fans. Look, Kai Havertz is starting to prove more and more people wrong, more and more Arsenal fans wrong, you could say as well. You know, it's not just been a case of rival fans, or Arsenal fans as well have had some doubts. But he's proving us wrong to the stage where now rumours are coming out that he may change our summer transfer plans. So, George, how do you feel about Havertz affecting our striker pursuit? And Mikel go, look, we don't need an Osimhen anymore. Let's stick with Havertz. Maybe we're going to sign another striker that isn't as expensive and allocate funds elsewhere to maybe a left number 8, a left forward instead, and look to improve the squad as a whole rather than just Victor Osimhen.
I'm a lot more conflicted than I think you are about the faith that I have that he could be a starting number 9 for Arsenal to the level that we need in terms of completing trophies. I think that he's been in brilliant form, and I think there's no denying that he offers you a versatility and an option in that area of the pitch that has made us better. But if anything, I think that it shows what type of profile that the team would thrive more than necessarily the player name Havertz specifically. And, you know, I think this idea that we had somebody that is a little bit more of a physical presence, that's a channel runner, we see the impact on this team. And I think that's what Havertz has brought. You know, I don't think he's brought necessarily this superstar clinician in terms of being in front of goal, chance goal, but it's the chaos that he provides in terms of his ability to arrive in the box that has been, I think, the difference maker here. And I think, look, he's in form right now, and he's done a brilliant job. And I don't think that you can question his application. I don't think you can question, arguably, his fee. I think if you look at his numbers right now, what are his numbers in total this season? So I
think it's 13 goals and 6 assists.
Yeah, and so you're approaching 19 goal and assists in a Premier League season. Like that's worth £65 million to me, and he's been doing it primarily in the run-in. So I mean, they're important goal and assists. They're not just flimsy output numbers that you achieve after the game's won. I think he's been making himself known, and I think instead of just having a March kind of Havertz, you've had the 2024 Havertz. He's been one of our better players of 2024. Period. So. I'm not. I think that he's gone a lot in terms of proving that the fee that we've paid for him is justified. In terms of whether or not he deserves to be the highest paid player at Arsenal, that's a very different story to me. Now, I will say, if you believe that he's going to be your long-term number 9, and he's able to lead Arsenal to titles in that sense, he's worth that kind of a wage. But I'm wondering, say you were to get a marquee center forward, is he enough to change your plans? Does he offer enough of a qualitative advantage, Kai Havertz individually, to say he is enough to change my transfer plans? Personally, no. I mean, and the one thing that I look towards is I think I want to build around Kai Havertz, but I don't think that I build with Kai Havertz as, you know, the name to lead us. I look at Bukayo Saka. I look at Martinelli. I look at players that we've seen personally, despite him being in brilliant form, we've seen a lot more sample of these two delivering on a more consistent basis. And so delivering that freedom, I think I'm really concerned about making sure that we maximize those talents. And Kai can fit into that, by the way. It's not an exclusive conversation that, you know, you basically, just because you believe that Kai Havertz isn't the long-term number 9 doesn't mean that Kai Havertz can't maintain and be a really important part of what you do in the future. I think he'll be an important squad player that I can probably have a lot more faith in down the line. But in terms of him developing out to be that absolutely clinical 9 that we need is not something that I think that we're ever going to see from Kai Havertz. So I think it's wrong to expect it. I think a lot of what he's doing right now is what you can expect. He's going to give you moments, and he's going to give you an option in channels that brings others into play.
It's weird because you talk about clinical strikers, and the first thing that comes to mind is Erling Haaland as a clinical striker, when if you watch him play, he's not actually that much of a clinical striker. Even Victor Osimhen misses a lot of chances. I think it's more about how many goals they score and can they outweigh the amount of chances they miss. And I think Havertz, as it stands, is outweighing the amount of chances he misses. He's scoring quite a few more goals on top of that. And I think the question then becomes, if we go for an Osimhen, which is the name George has put forward quite a few times, and all of us have talked about as a summer sign in the summer. Do you think he could give Arsenal that platform that Havertz gives us in terms of accommodating the other players as well, as on top of the goals that he would score, obviously?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you're thrilled with Kai Havertz, Victor Osimhen is going to make you even more excited. I mean, he gives you the same package of a 6'4" over-the-top striker that gives you actually more physicality. If you're talking about the press, Victor Osimhen is a lot more intense in his press. And if you're actually talking about overloading the sides, Victor Osimhen has less angle bias than Kai Havertz, who likes to drift more towards the right-hand side. And you're talking about linking and making sure the left-hand side works. I think Victor Osimhen is probably one of the best channel running nines in the world. So if anything, whatever Kai Havertz gives you, Victor Osimhen gives you better in terms of those profile strengths. And you're talking about the aerial ability. Victor Osimhen's the best aerial striker in the world. And you're talking about box movement, because that's the key, right? Like, the key with Havertz is his movement. It's not so much the fact that we're looking at somebody to continuously score, because like you said, I actually think Victor Osimhen and Kai Havertz are both strikers that are going to miss chances that you're going to get frustrated with. That's not the point that I think I get with Victor Osimhen. The thing that I get with Victor Osimhen that's a difference to Kai Havertz is I think that Victor Osimhen, for example, strikes fear more into back lines than Kai Havertz in terms of his intensity of runs. When I see Kai Havertz through one-on-one on goal, I'm not afraid. I don't think defenses are afraid. And he hasn't generated that fear. I think he's done really good moments, and I think he's been able to really help a lot of people come into play. But in terms of him individually providing that fear, I don't know if he does. And so I think that's been always the biggest qualitative difference for me, despite them being actually really similar profile of strikers. Now, one thing I want to put to you is, why can't they play together? I mean, whenever I've talked about Victor Osimhen, it's always been because it gives you a physical backboard in order to have Kai Havertz run off of somebody like that. And I think that dynamic could be potent. I mean, when we talk about what marquee forward we need to get, the one question that you do have to start to ask yourself is, how does that marquee forward fit in terms of the midfield and in terms of the attack? And I think that's really what the question is. Like, are we going to be continuing with Kai Havertz as a striker? Is he going to be moving towards more of a second striker role in a 3-4-3 diamond? Like, all of these things change how you want to recruit. And I think because there's so much unpredictability in how Arsenal want to maybe evolve in the future, I think that's where a lot of the questions come in. But just to rope it back to Havertz, I think, is doing brilliant. I don't think you can question what Havertz is currently doing. And I think it'd be foolish to question what he's currently doing. And also to be foolish to assume that a 24-year-old can't coach and be coached more. We've already seen it within this season. He has a coachability to him. So I think that's something that you can't ignore from Kai Havertz. But the thing is, I need to make sure that the offside goal that we like to reference, and we've referenced before in previous pods against Spurs, which was my favorite piece of movement, if you could guarantee me, Bhavs, that Kai Havertz is going to approach every single play. I don't care that it goes in, mate. I don't care. But if you can guarantee to me now that every single time he's in the final third, he has that authority, then I'm telling you right now, don't buy a striker. Kai Havertz can be the number 9 for Arsenal. That, to me, is something that I just don't think Kai Havertz will ever be. He'll give us glimpses of that, but I don't think I've seen enough across the season to say that he's been aggressive enough in possession. And I don't think I've seen enough sample of that for me to be confident that that can be a season sample. That can be a baseline. And so that's where I struggle with.
Yeah, look, it's a weird one, because that intensity is something that I believe can be coached. And that's where it becomes a bit of a debate of can he not, and how much can he improve? Because everything that we've wanted from Kai in a slower spurt, he's giving us game by game. So that seeing the way he's taking that step forwards, and I don't think Mikel Arteta would have given Havertz the highest wage of the club if he didn't see him as one of the integral parts of his team going into the future. And there's an idea that if we sign a striker, then Havertz becomes a bench player. I think it's very, very wrong. Mikel wants him to be very much a starting player in this team, and if he's a secondary striker, And when you've got an 8 like Martin Odegaard and you've got a 6 like Declan Rice, it could work as well. Of course it could work. But, you know, I'm looking at the number 9 right now, and I think what Arsenal fans want is less the number 9 striker, but more inevitable goals. A player that in the Champions League you turn to and go, this guy here is going to get us that goal. And you look at Real Madrid, they don't have a number 9 like Benzema, but they've got a player like Vinicius Jr., they've got players like Jude Bellingham. And we've got players that are coming up to that stage. But then I'd ask you the question of, if you could sign a striker this season, you know, and like a Victor Osimhen, who could have cost you, what, £100 million plus, or you could spend that level of money on maybe a left forward instead, who's inevitable, it gives a bit more pace, and someone like a Rafael Leao as an example. Who do you prefer? When you've got the player, like a profile that is similar to Osimhen and Kai Havertz, versus maybe a lack of a more inevitable profile on the left hand side and maybe an out former on the league, which you could become that. Who do you prefer to spend it on? A left winger, a marquee left forward, or a marquee centre forward?
I think squad building wise, it makes sense if we could find that left forward. I don't think there's a left forward as complete as Victor Osimhen at striker, though. And that's the problem that I've got with it. I think squad building wise, this squad is yearning more for a left winger, in my opinion. We've got plenty of options at striker. But the problem is I don't find the profile that I love for us to be able to complete it with. That's simply what it is. I mean, if I could find that person, then I would be propping him up to kingdom come. I'd be continuously shouting his name, because I think that, we do lack more of an inevitable transition threat. That's really what it comes down to. I need pace. I need searing, transitional inevitability. When you talk about Bayern and you talk about Real Madrid, by the way, what is it that we just saw? Vinicius Jr. dropping in deep and on the run, and we all knew the ball was going in the back of the net. I don't see Kai Havertz being able to do that, and it's not a complicated movement. What Vinicius Jr. did, I just don't think that he's got that same physical edge.
But I do see Havertz being able to drop deeper to open up space for a Martinelli type to run in, and I think that's what Mikel wants.
Sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't think. Well, if you're going to do that, though, I mean, how many people have we already recruited in that sense? Between Jesus, between Trossard, if you're looking at that type to come deep and to do those things, I'd probably say you're looking at a Joshua Zirkzee, you're looking at people in that mold to come deep. But again, I honestly think Mikel looks at different profiles, and that's what he wants ultimately. So the one thing that you could say is Victor Osimhen and Kai Havertz a case of Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya? Or is it a case of us buying a different profile entirely and going from Leno to Aaron Ramsdale? That's a different question that I think Mikel will have to struggle with all season, because I think ultimately the proof's going to be in the pudding.
It's a weird one, because if you look about players that he's pursued more, or positions he's pursued more, is definitely left forward. You don't go and spend potentially £65 million on Mykhailo Mudryk if you don't want a left winger. And that's why I think if there is a profile that he looks in the market and goes, look, I can coach that player into becoming that inevitable transitional player. Maybe someone like a Nico Williams.
Who do you
or
think,
Pedro
Bhavs?
Neto.
Because you really like Kai Havertz potentially as a 9. Like, do you see an option for you that is a really clear name?
Or as a left forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. On the market right now, a lot of the players are more fan speculation. So, the fan speculation of a Rafael Leao being that player we can go and sign. And look, I don't think it's impossible. You look at AC Milan in the Serie A, they're not as competitive, as Inter. Then I think Leao wants to be a part of a team that's, competing at the very top. But then you look at maybe more fantasizing options of players that Mikel could coach and save, like Marcus Rashford. So there is no Declan Rice, and I think, but I also don't believe there's a Declan Rice going forwards, because as Osimhen's a very good option, but I'm not as convinced as I was early in the season, because of we Havertz come forwards, that he's the best fund allocation of going and spending £100 million on a player when you've got, I think, 70 to 80% of what you want in Havertz, right? So is the extra 20% worth it? Whereas you can go and improve the left wing, maybe improve the left-hand side more and spend even more money on the left number 8, rather than going and have to spend £100 million. I'm not against also spending that money. But if the money is there for a player who's worth it, and I don't know, apart from maybe Osimhen, and that's debatable, if there's a player on the market that is an easy £100 million investment that improves like Declan Rice does. So I'd rather allocate it maybe in different positions to improve the squad as a whole again. A left forward, maybe a more of a project striker, and then you've got the left number 8 as well.
Yeah, I've got a very fantasy name that I would love. That isn't a striker, that isn't a left winger. that I'm not sure is on the market. And in terms of that left 8 position, it would make me want to change a lot of my ideas. And that's Jamal
Is he? Is
Musiala.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he German? Is he from Bayern
Yeah,
Munich?
what's happening with Ralph Ragnick right now? Bayern have been rejected by 3 managers on the spin very publicly, and this is a boy that's in the last 2 years of his contract. I just don't see a better opportunity to destabilize him. In a year or two, Bayern get their shit together, and I think that I'm looking at him as a huge classic Mikel Arteta signing, homegrown, bring the boy back to London, and I'm looking at a left 8, ironically. That's the biggest position of need for a lot of fans, a lot of people in midfield. And I think that's a game breaker. That's somebody that, for me, offers you a special, special quality. Along with Declan Rice, he could offer you something for the future. He's 21 years old. And when I talk about £100 million signings, he's, for example, somebody that I could say, without a doubt, I don't have questions. He's £100 million. The question is he on the market? Can we convince him? There's been links in terms of Jamal Musiala looking at Manchester City and looking around. And could you blame them? I don't know. I just think that it's time that Arsenal maybe do something unexpected, and we have to start pulling the superstars from the top teams. And that's going to be the
Yeah.
next step. Is it one summer too soon before we've been able to really secure major honors, or do we secure major honors and be able to do it this summer? All questions.
Mm-hmm. All questions that will be answered, hopefully, step by step. And the first step, of course, is this Saturday against Bournemouth. So, my friends, thank you for watching as always, and we will see you very soon on the Instant Reaction. Take care. Peace.